It was supposed to be just another quiet evening in the swamp. Tell me in the comments which city are you watching from, and did you notice any mistake in the story? Speech balloon also, tell me what story I should make next. Red heart, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories. The kind where the world slowed down, and all you could hear was the wind brushing against the reeds. But for Daniel Hayes, a single dad with a heart full of scars and a daughter who still believed in miracles, that night would change everything. As thunder rolled above the marsh and the rain poured like heaven's tears, Daniel heard a sound, a cry, faint but desperate. He thought it was an animal at first, until he saw her. A woman half submerged in the mud, her clothes torn, her leg bleeding, and just a few feet away, the glinting eyes of a crocodile circling closer. Without thinking, Daniel dove in. The swamp swallowed him whole, the darkness closing in as he wrestled between life and death. But when he pulled her out, gasping, trembling, and clutching his daughter's lucky bracelet, he had no idea who she really was. He didn't know she was a CEO, a woman the whole city admired, now broken and lost in the wilderness. And he certainly didn't know that this moment, this rescue, would soon lift his daughter's dream higher than he ever thought possible, because sometimes, fate doesn't send miracles in shining light, sometimes, it sends them covered in mud, whispering, "Thank you." The rain came down hard that evening, drumming against the tin roof of Daniel Hayes' small wooden cabin that stood at the edge of the Louisiana swamp. The world outside was a blur of gray and green, where the cypress trees swayed under the weight of the storm. Inside, Daniel sat by the flickering lantern, repairing his daughter Lily's worn-out rain boots. The power had been out since afternoon, but that didn't bother him much. Life had taught him to live with little and love with what he had. "Daddy, will the stars come back tomorrow?" Lily asked softly, her tiny voice breaking the silence. She was 8, bright-eyed and full of questions, the kind of girl who saw beauty even in broken things. "They always do, sweetheart," he replied, smiling faintly. "Even when you can't see them, they're still up there. You just gotta believe." Lily smiled and hugged him before curling up with her stuffed bunny. Daniel watched her fall asleep, her little chest rising and falling in rhythm with the rain. That sight, her peace, her innocence, was his anchor. He had lost so much already, his wife, their home, the life he'd once dreamed of. But as long as Lily was safe, he could face anything. The storm outside grew louder, and Daniel thought about heading out to check the fishing nets before the water levels rose too high. He slipped on his old jacket, grabbed his flashlight, and stepped into the storm. The swamp air was thick, the kind that clung to your skin and made every breath feel heavy. He trudged through the mud, boots sinking into the earth with each step, the beam of his flashlight cutting through sheets of rain. Then he heard it, a sound that didn't belong to the swamp. It wasn't the call of a frog or the rustle of branches. It was a cry, sharp, frightened, and human. Daniel froze. For a moment, he thought the storm was playing tricks on him. But then it came again, faint yet desperate. Without hesitation, he turned toward the sound, heart pounding. He moved deeper into the marsh, wading through knee-deep water. The rain blurred his vision, but his instincts pulled him forward. When his light finally caught something in the distance, his breath caught. There, tangled in the reeds, was a woman. Her clothes were torn, her face pale as moonlight, one arm reaching weakly toward the shore. And just a few feet from her, 2 glowing yellow eyes cut through the dark, a crocodile, circling closer. Daniel didn't think. He dropped the flashlight, the beam spinning wildly as he dove into the water. The cold hit him like a wall, but he pushed forward, his boots dragging against the mud. The crocodile's tail sliced through the water, sending ripples across the surface. The woman let out a hoarse cry, too weak to move. Daniel grabbed a broken branch floating nearby and swung it through the murky water, shouting to draw the reptile's attention. "Hey! Over here," he yelled, thrashing the stick against the surface. The crocodile turned, its jaws snapping, teeth glinting under flashes of lightning. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest, but he stood his ground. He swung again, harder, until the creature lunged at him, and that's when he dove sideways, driving the stick deep into the mud to block its path. The beast hissed, thrashing, but Daniel didn't wait to see more. He rushed to the woman, hooked an arm around her waist, and dragged her toward the shore. She was light, fragile, and shivering. Blood mixed with rainwater streamed down her leg. Daniel could barely hear her breathing over the roar of thunder. "You're gonna be okay, ma'am. I got you," he muttered, his voice trembling from cold and fear. The crocodile lunged once more, but Daniel grabbed a rock and hurled it as hard as he could. It splashed just enough to send the animal sliding back into the deeper water. He didn't stop until they were far enough onto dry land, both collapsing under the weight of exhaustion. The woman lay still, her chest rising shallowly. Daniel quickly checked for a pulse. It was faint, but he tore a strip from his flannel shirt and tied it around her wounded leg to slow the bleeding. The wound looked nasty, maybe from sharp debris or something worse. "You hang on, all right," he whispered. "You're safe now." Her eyes flickered open, just barely. In the dim glow of the fallen flashlight, Daniel caught a glimpse of her face, delicate, streaked with mud, yet striking even through the pain. "Please," she murmured weakly, voice shaking. "Help, my phone." He looked around but saw nothing. "We'll worry about that later. You need to get warm first." He lifted her carefully into his arms and began the long walk back through the swamp. Every step was a battle against the sucking mud and pouring rain. The storm howled like something alive, but Daniel kept going, gritting his teeth against the cold. By the time he reached his cabin, his arms burned with exhaustion. He pushed the door open with his shoulder, startling Lily awake. "Daddy," she gasped, eyes wide when she saw the stranger in his arms. "It's okay, sweetheart," he said softly. "She's hurt. I need you to get me some towels and that blanket from your bed." Lily jumped up, doing exactly as told. Together, they laid the woman on the couch near the fireplace. Daniel wrapped her in the blanket and rubbed her arms to warm her up. Lily stood beside him, watching with wide, worried eyes. "Is she gonna be okay?" she whispered. Daniel hesitated. "I hope so, honey." He fetched the small first aid kit they kept for fishing accidents and cleaned her wound as best as he could. The woman winced, her hand clutching the edge of the couch. "You're safe now," Daniel reassured her gently. "Just rest." Her eyes opened again, soft and disoriented. You saved me," Daniel gave a tired smile. "Guess the swamp's not always cruel." She tried to speak again but drifted into unconsciousness. Daniel sat beside her, dripping wet, staring at the stranger he'd just pulled from death. Who was she? What was she doing out there alone in the storm? There was something strange about her, not just the expensive watch on her wrist or the way her hands looked too soft for this kind of wilderness, but something else. Something he couldn't name yet. Lily came and sat beside him, leaning her small head on his shoulder. "She looks like someone from the movies," she whispered sleepily. "Maybe she's a princess." Daniel chuckled softly, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. "Maybe she is," he said. "But tonight, she's just someone who needed help." Outside, the storm began to quiet. The swamp, moments ago alive with chaos, settled into a soft rhythm again. Daniel looked at the woman's pale face illuminated by the flickering firelight and couldn't shake the feeling that fate had just led her to his doorstep for a reason he couldn't see yet, but one that would soon change everything for him and his little girl. ChatGPT said the next morning, sunlight filtered weakly through the curtains, casting a golden haze across the cabin's wooden floor. The storm had passed, leaving the swamp eerily calm. The air smelled of wet earth and pine. Daniel stirred awake on the chair beside the couch where the woman still lay, wrapped in Lily's favorite blanket. He had barely slept. All night, he checked her breathing, changed the cloth on her forehead, and tried to keep the fire alive. When she finally opened her eyes, confusion clouded her face. She blinked at the ceiling, then at Daniel. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice rough and fragile. "You're safe," Daniel said gently, setting down the mug of coffee he'd been holding. "You were hurt last night. I found you out in the swamp." Her brows furrowed as fragments of memory returned. "The water, the noise, something attacked. It's over now," he assured her. "You're lucky to be alive. That storm nearly took the whole bayou with it." She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her leg, and she winced, clutching the blanket. Daniel was quick to steady her. "Easy," he said softly. "You've got a nasty cut. I did what I could, but you'll need a doctor once the road clears." "Thank you," she murmured, her eyes meeting his for the first time. They were warm, kind eyes, the kind that had seen both hardship and hope. "You saved me." Daniel shrugged, embarrassed by the praise. Anybody would have done the same. But she knew, somehow, that wasn't true. Most people wouldn't dive into a swamp in the middle of a lightning storm. There was something in his voice.